Welcome home and welcome everybody to Petco Park. We welcome our troops back home. San Diego, one of the great military towns in our country, and the Rockies getting ready for game 2 of this 4-game set against the Padres. Last night, or yesterday afternoon to be more precise, the Rockies won for the first time at Petco all year, a 6-4 victory. Charlie Blackmon is going to lead things off. Here's the rest of Walt's lineup presented by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Jose Reyes had yesterday off. He's back in there in his familiar 2 spot. Cargo had most of yesterday off. He came in defensively late. He'll bring the .274 batting average in, 36 home runs, along with Nolan Arenado leading the National League. Justin Morneau had an RBI early in the ballgame yesterday. He'll bat 5th. DJ a couple hits. Ben Paulson will be in left field. And batting 8th will be Dustin Garneau. Here we go. Young man on the hill is Colin Ray. He is a 6'5", 220-pound, 25-year-old out of Indiana State. He's got good stuff. First pitch in there for a strike. Game time temperature 85 degrees. It's been quite warm here in San Diego and surprisingly humid as you look at the numbers.
His numbers are great, and he was knocking down the doors to get to the major leagues. This year, a 1.95 ERA between AA and AAA. He is going to work with a fastball, a little cutter, and loves his curveball. And I was talking to Mudcat, the Padres broadcaster. He says he throws a kind of a forked changeup, and we'll try to get to that pitch as well.
Let me ask you something, Spilly. When you were facing a starter you had no familiarity with, a positive or a negative, because you're checking him out on video, which all the guys were in the clubhouse prior to the ball game. How did you view it?
With the changeup?
No, I'm saying just overall, when you're facing a guy that, you know, okay, you're watching him on video, you see, okay,
what am I looking
tall,
for?
I see a good breaking ball. You're going to know the repertoire, but you haven't seen him live.
You still have to get to the plate, and you're trying to eliminate pitches. I want to know what is the pitch he's going to go to early in the count, and what is he trying to fish me off with.
That's just below the knees, 3-2 as you look at the arsenal on Colin Ray. And we saw on video, because we watched a little bit, he has a good curveball.
He has an excellent curveball. The fastball, he'll try to sink it. Really, he's trying to cut it more into left-handed hitters, so pay attention to the left-handed batters.
3-2. He goes fastball, and it's hit in the air to center field. And Travis Jankowski comes on and makes the catch.
Here he is in his last start against the Dodgers. There's the big curveball that we're talking about, the little sinker that he'll run in under lefties, and the ability to throw the cutter. Took a ball off his shoulder from Jock Peterson, was able to stay in that game. Didn't really have a lot of ill effects from it.
So here's Reyes with 1 out, and that fastball runs off the outside corner, ball 1. Jose has put together quite a resume. Think back to when he came up with David Wright. I've mentioned this before. It just shows you how time flies. And that's line foul. Reyes is becoming more and more comfortable. He had a very strong homestand when the Rockies went 4-4 last week. Throwing the ball all over the yard. Threw out a triple. Hit nearly 400.
I think Walt mentioned just the fact that he's starting to feel a lot more comfortable with this team. He's going to start hitting the ball a lot better as well.
Reyes 3 times has led the league in plate appearances. He led the league in hits 1 time in his career. He's led in triples 4 times, steals 3 different times, and of course he won a batting title in 2011 with the Mets, hitting .337. 1-2, and he fouls off that good curveball. It's a pretty good look at it too.
First time through the lineup, batters are hitting .231 against Ray. Second time through, .262, and the third time through, .467. That's also why he hasn't lasted longer than 5 2/3 in his major league career so far.
Strike 3, and Jose knew it. Before he could hear Mark Wegner bark, he was already striding toward the plate. Or toward the dugout. 2 outs. Cargo coming up. Here's the defensive alignment for San Diego tonight. Justin Upton, Travis Jankowski, Matt Kemp in the outfield. So Will Myers, who started in center, goes to first base. Played a little there late in the ballgame yesterday. Spangenberg, Jerko, and Solarte, along with Derek Norris, who was at first base initially. He's behind the plate. So again, Cargo did play the last 2 innings on defense. His number never came up on offense yesterday. A much needed day off. And that cutter is high, ball 1. Shift is on. 3 on the right side. Here's the 1-0. And this is a high fly ball to shallow left, and coming on to make the catch is Justin Upton. So a 1-2-3 beginning for Colin Ray. We'll see John Gray when we return. Lead things off for San Diego. Padres are 9-4 against the Rockies so far in 2015. Yannervis Solarte, couple hits yesterday. He'll bat second. Matt Kemp had an up and down day. Justin Upton, Jed Jerko, 4 and 5. Derek Norris, he has 9 doubles this year against the Rockies. Corey Spangenberg will bat 7th. They've flip-flopped. They've done the thing Walt does every once in a while for Pat Murphy. Colin Ray, the pitcher, will bat 8th, and Jankowski, who can flat out fly, will bat 9th. So John Gray making his 7th start, looking for his first big league victory.
Well, and you mentioned the first pitch strike percentage is 73% in that last start against the Diamondbacks. At his worst, he threw 40% against that Mets team when he only went an inning and 2/3. So let's pay attention to the first pitch strikes tonight. And on cue, he throws the ball.
Will Myers just came off the disabled list a few days ago. He was on the 60-day disabled list with wrist tendonitis. And that fastball at 93 is fouled off, 1-1. Way outside. 2 balls and a strike. Padres have lost 6 of their last 7 games, all here in the month of September. And a little slider, and he ends up with an effective pitch there. Myers sitting on that fastball out front enough that he broke his bat off the end of the bat. 1 out, and that'll bring up Solarte. Rockies defensively. Ben Paulson's getting a lot of work in left field to keep his bat in the lineup against righties. Blackman in center, Cargo in right. Arenado, Reyes, LeMahieu, Morneau's at first again, and Dustin Garneau, who caught John Gray virtually every game at AAA. So there's great familiarity in this battery tonight. And that is fisted to shallow center, and running it down is Charlie Blackmon. You got a great read on that. 2 outs.
Solarte wasting no time. He is a first pitch fastball hitter, and John Gray gave him one. I love the location of it. Up and in on him, knowing that he's the aggressive hitter. And Charlie Blackmon, great read. It almost looked like he slowed down, thinking he was going to have an easier play. Put the boosters on and made it easy no matter what.
2 outs, and Matt Kemp will come up. Matt heard cheers and boos in the same night yesterday. He had a 2-run home run early in the ball game to provide the Padres with a quick, or tie up the score, because the Rockies got the quick jump. They were up 2-0 on Ian Kennedy. He tied it up. Everybody was loving Matt Kemp, and then he leaped at the wall and dropped what probably should have been a catch. It was a 3-base error off the bat of Daniel Descalso. 2 Rockies scored on that, and then in his next 2 at-bats, he came up with runners on base and hit into a double play each time, struck out his final AB. So his day ran the gamut.
His day ran the gamut, and his teammates picked him up. In the post-game comments that they had, they said there's sun in his eyes, and that's a tough game. He's picked up the Padres a lot this season.
Well, he's been their best player,
no doubt,
in the second half. Matt's hitting .303 in the second half with 11 home runs, and he's driven in 44, which is true to form. Matt's always been one of those guys, for whatever reasons. Bill, you probably played with guys that had
a nose.
You know, for some guys just have much better. Sometimes it's first halves and second halves. Jason Marquis was known for being a much better first half pitcher. In the case of Matt Kemp, he's always put up better numbers in the second half. No score. We'll go to the second.
Yesterday, scary moment for Nolan Arenado. He dove into the stands. He said he felt the ball touch his glove. He wasn't able to make the catch, but that's just Nolan being Nolan. He's done this all season long. He's a competitive player. He only has one gear, and that is to go full throttle. Now, the general manager of the Rockies, Jeff Bridich, is in town, so I got the chance to ask him today if his heart stops when Nolan jumps in the crowd.
You could actually see him last night get ready and propel himself into the stands, which, you know, is not surprising, certainly, the way that he plays. It's part of what I think endears him to his teammates and certainly Rockies fans and the front office. And he goes out every day and leaves it all out on the field. And so it can be nerve-wracking at times, but I think he's shown, you know, because it's time and time again, he's shown that I think he's tough enough to handle the rigors of that type of play.
I love how Bridich said he had so much time, it's like he launched himself into the crowd. Drew Spilly, we've watched this all season long from him, and talking to Nolan today, I asked him, out of the 3 dives, the one in San Francisco where he made the tarp catch, and the one in Cincinnati, as he flies out here to center field, where he dove into the stands and hit the cup holder. I said, which was the scariest for you? And he said, honestly, this one hurts the most here in San Diego, but the scariest still is San Francisco, just because of all his body had to go through to make the catch and try and get the ball back in play. What do you guys think was the most impressive?
The catch on the tarp was, because he's not looking at the tarp, he makes an unbelievable, he didn't realize what was going to happen to him there until obviously after it happened. So I understand why that was the scariest. You're right, he had a moment yesterday, as Jeff described, Jenny, where he could see, okay, I have a chance. And in talking to him, I know we all talked to him today, he was bummed because he got leather on it. He really felt like I could have caught it.
Yeah, well, he leads the National League in RBIs, tarp slides, and jumps into the stands, and he also probably leads in chest contusions, but he'll continue to get them throughout his entire career because that's
So
like what Jenny said. That's who he is.
2-0 on Justin Morneau with 1 out. No score in the second. And that fastball off the plate. 3-0. Home plate umpires Mark Wegner tonight. Marty Foster at first. Mike Winters at second. Mike Malinsky is at third. You cannot work in this crew unless you have a first name that begins with M.
That's right.
All 4.
Yeah. They said that to us yesterday when we saw him leaving the ballpark. Because we asked him for a ride, and they said you can't because you don't have a name that starts with an M.
What else did you say to them?
I asked them if they are good friends with Bruce Bochy. Mike Winters, who in the Dodgers series with the Giants threw him out back-to-back games. We said, yeah, they said.
You cleaned that up a little bit nicely.
Very.
DJ's at the plate, 1 out and 1 on. You are learning diplomacy here.
Yes, and dancing.
Rockies fans, join in on the conversation. Send us your thoughts and pictures using Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, and include the hashtag Toyota Talk. DJ, a couple more hits yesterday. He's now 5th in the league in hitting at .318. Big opening on the right side because Spangenberg, who does not have a lot of experience at second, but he's got to slide over to play at double play depth. The old line 2 in, 2 over. So a big gap in a hole that DJ uses frequently.
I think most pitchers think when you have trying to get a hitter to roll a ball over into the double play formation, to hit it to the left side where they can turn the double play, you want to throw the pitches into DJ. Well, that is the ball that he actually handles the best to hit it opposite field. So as pitchers are learning to pitch to DJ, they're finding that off-speed pitches away, fastballs away are probably the better pitches to try to induce that ground ball.
Talking to Dustin Garneau about DJ today. And he just, he's a great kid. His eyes are wide open. He's soaking up everything that is his new experience as a major league player. And he said, it's just amazing to me how confident he is in letting the ball get deep and then shooting it the other way. There's Dustin. He's 2 doors down. Ben Paulson's actually on deck. Way inside, 3 and 2. Colin Ray's whip so far in 5 starts in the big leagues is 142. The league average is 129. The major league average is 129. In other words, 1.29 base runners against a pitcher per inning. And this is bounced through that right side, just as we talked about. Morneau will stop at second. And DJ has yet another hit to the right side. And there's 2 on now for Paulson. Here's our Lowe's never stop improving stat. 318 coming in, 5th in the league, 43 multi-hit games, tied for 5th in the league. The hit total, the stolen bases in the top 10 in the league. And his on-base percentage at .375, which is just outstanding. Just keeps getting better and better, and that's not always a guarantee. I think sometimes, Billy, we fall in the trap of saying, you know, a 23 or 24-year-old has a gorgeous year, 25 home runs, knocks in 90 and 35 doubles, swung on and missed. And you say, wait, just wait 3 or 4 years. It doesn't always work that way. That may be their career year. They may have other good, solid years, but you can't just assume because a guy throws out, you know, a year like that, that it's always going to be that way or it's going to continually get better.
And that's why, as evaluators, you have to understand if that was his best year, then so be it. If you can have what they consider an average year, that's where you're trying to figure it out. It's hard to find guys' ceilings and then assume that they're going to do that every single time.
I'll give you an example. I mean, Mike Trout, the first few years in the league, just silly stuff. I don't think we'll ever see Mike Trout steal 40 bags again. He's more of a, I mean, he can get it. He's a situational base stealer now. He's hitting more home runs than he did his first couple of years. Will he continue to be maybe the most impactful player in the game or on a very short list? I certainly think so, but his first couple of years, he may not approach those numbers. He may have a year where, you know, he hits 50 doubles. That's strike 3 on Paulson. So now it'll be left to Dustin Garneau.
Well, there's a reason why Colin Ray is in the big leagues. He has been able to command his fastball in the minor league levels, the AA, AAA. I've already mentioned the 1.95 ERA. No matter where you are, a hip shot sinker, which is that pitch he just threw to Ben Paulson, to a lefty will freeze up most guys. That is an excellent pitch.
That bounces up there, and it's 1-0 on Garneau.
Well, the Rocks this year are 5 for 45 with runners in scoring position at Petco. And that includes 3 hits yesterday, a 3 for 4 day.
Well, it's why they were winless until yesterday at Petco. They're now 1-5. 2-0 on Garneau. Colin Ray knows the guy on deck doesn't have a big league hit. Not that you want to load the bases, but he does have John Gray in the on-deck circle. And this is ostensibly going to be a pitch around and an intentional walk. Looks that way right now. 3-0 on Garneau.
If I'm Stu Cole, I gave Garneau the green light right here.
So 4 pitches not close, and now that'll load the bases for John Gray. Who wants tacos? When the Rockies score 7 or more runs in any game, go to participating Colorado Taco Bell locations the next day between 4 and 6 to get your Rockies taco special with Moss at Taco Bell. 2 walks and a hit in the inning. And Gray at the plate. Seven ABs, 5 strikeouts. Looking for his first win and his first big league hit. Be a beautiful thing if they came on the same evening, huh?
And it is a beautiful evening in San Diego. And I'm sure his family in Chandler, Oklahoma, probably watching this game, would love to see his first big league hit and his first big league win.
You bet. You know what? Sometimes, look at that. It's 2-0 now. He'll obviously have the take sign. Sometimes when a guy pitches around a guy, it gets him out of rhythm, and then the next guy, you've experienced that, Billy, I'm sure.
It's the same thing as if you're asking a hitter to take a pitch, because it turns that switch off in your mind, the aggressive switch. Crowd applause, Ray, for throwing a strike.
I didn't
like it. I did not like taking strikes. But yes, I would load, so I would feel like I was taking my normal approach.
Takes another strike. Now it's 2-2. Bases loaded, 2 outs, 2-2 on John Gray in the second. right corner. And that'll end the threat. So the Rockies leave them loaded in the second. Middle of 2, no score in San Diego. Hometown Toyota stores, let's go places. Buy Jack in the Box for a limited time. Try the new Portobello Mushroom Buttery Jack with melted garlic herb butter. And by Southwest Airlines, book your low fare now at southwest.com. Temperatures still in the 80s here in San Diego. Very, very warm the last couple of days and humid, which is unusual. Padres will have Justin Upton in the second against John Gray. John had a very quick and efficient first inning. Ground ball, a couple of mishit fly balls. So Justin steps up, leading the Padres in home runs with 24 and stolen bases with 19. The last Padre to do that was Reggie Sanders in '99. He led with 26 home runs and 36 stolen bases. I always felt Reggie was a very underrated player.
One of my favorites. And he did it with a lot of different teams.
A lot of different teams. Real good guy.
I would have guessed Mike Cameron would have been the last guy to have done something like 2020.
Yeah. You know what? Very good guess, because Mike had a lot of pop and ran very well. His son was a first-round pick this past June. 2-0 on Upton. Only one other Padre has led them in home runs and also stolen bases. It will be 3 if Justin continues to lead in both, and he's pretty much a slam dunk at this point.
Am I going to guess right here?
Go ahead and guess, and it's a pretty prominent name.
Dave Winfield.
Dave Winfield, the Hall of Famer. 2-1, hanging breaking ball, hitting the air down the right field line. Cargo's not going to be able to get there. It's a 2-2 count. Dave Winfield, that's not a misprint, folks. In '76, he led with 13 home runs and 26 stolen bases. And we double-checked it, and he played 137 games that year. And Winfield, who hit well over 400 home runs in his career, you know, the Padres have always played in big ballparks. 3-2. He led with 13 home runs. Doug Rader was second on the Padres in home runs with 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
That doesn't even sound right.
No, it doesn't sound right.
Sounds like a strike-shortened season.
Good slider. Now that was one heck of a pitch. You throw that, Spilly, take us up to the plate with you. You throw that pitch on a 3-2 count, you got no shot at
You're going to do exactly what Justin Upton is doing, and just walk right back to the bat rack and shake your head and say, that's a nasty pitch. It starts on the outer part of the zone. It looks like a strike, and then it just falls right off the table. That is the pitch Jon Gray wants to get to. And that is the pitch that he is now learning he can put guys away.
I asked Dustin Garneau, I said, what's the biggest difference? Because you caught him in Double-A. You caught him this year in Triple-A. What's the biggest difference? He said he would be really good at getting to a 2-strike count, 0-2, 1-2. But he wasn't finishing guys. He wasn't getting strikeouts. There was finish on that fastball up. And I said, where's he getting his swings and misses? Is it the slider primarily? He said the slider, and also his ability to raise the level of his fastball and get some chase swings up in the zone. He's got Jerko flailing, and it's 0-2.
I think it's important when you are a pitcher to understand that your fastball is your best pitch. A well-located fastball, but more importantly, if you don't have that wipeout slider, that changeup that you can throw in the dirt to get the swing and miss, to be able to elevate late in the count for the strikeout. Look out. Is going for that elevated fastball up in the zone. This is very close to Jed Jerko right here. Wow. I mean, that is missing him by inches. That's scary. Slider in the dirt.
Yeah, slider away is usually the sequence, and he pokes it out to right field. And you know why? Because it's such a pitching cliche. I'd have gone heater again.
Yeah, go fastball in again.
Yeah.
No doubt. That's the right thing.
1 out base hit by Jerko. Derek Norris coming up. With every challenge called, the Subaru Eyesight Review will determine the outcome. Love, it's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. So Norris this year has been a Rocky killer. He's hit just under 500 against the Rockies this year. 447 to be precise. He's driven in 10 runs, 9 doubles, and 2 home runs. And he takes a strike on the outer edge.
Nine doubles is a lot of doubles. And the 9 doubles, I believe, ties a team record for the most doubles for a Padre against one team.
That's a great pitch. Looks like he's got much better command of his fastball today than he did in his last outing.
Well, nobody on. The teams are hitting .222 against Jon Gray, but once runners get on base, a .381 batting average.
One and two.
We keep talking about the growth of Jon Gray, and I think so far tonight we've seen he has been able to locate fastballs away to right-handed hitters. He has very good glove side command of his fastball, but we've yet to see him really establish command of the inside part of the zone.
One and two.
Get your tickets now for the Fan Appreciation Fireworks, courtesy of Great Clips on Friday, September 25th, after the Rockies take on Los Dodgers.
One, two on Norris, and that's outside at 95. 2-2. John, the 18th different Sooner to be drafted in the first round. And if you're wondering, George Frazier, who went to Oklahoma. George was not a first round pick. They have had a great program for a number of years. Hard to go in that first round. Swung on and missed, and a strikeout at Derek Norris, second of the inning for John Gray. Corey Spangenberg will come up.
I love it when John Gray pitches with that fastball intent, where he finishes high with that leg kick after he releases the fastball. That's a fastball. He misses location. Again, Garneau's trying to get the ball inside. Still, when you're up in the zone, the fastball is at 95, 96 tonight, which is an improvement over 2 starts ago. You're going to get a lot of swings and misses. That's over what we call the bat speed.
Now, I like that. That was the pitch that was thrown by Ray, that hip side, sinker. And he doesn't two-seam the baseball much. He just got run on his four-seamer there. Strike one on Spangenberg. Another check on Jed Jerko, who's not typically a guy who's going to run.
Well, here's that pitch you just talked about. Being able to locate a ball on the inside part of the plate is excellent, especially to left-handed hitters. That's going to be part of his growth, is finding ways to get the lefties out.
Boy, that is dirty. That slider had not only east-west movement, but a lot of depth to it, north-south.
A little north to south on that one.
And here's one of those counts, 0-2. He's worked ahead of most hitters so far. Can he finish Spangenberg?
And I like that. I like that the fastballs have been up late in the count. That is part of, when I think of Zach Greinke, I think of now Justin Verlander, who's had to reestablish himself using his fastball since his stuff is no longer what it once was. You have to be able to use your fastball up in the zone late.
Those two are too high, so it's 2-2. Spangenberg 9 for 23 against the Rockies this year. And that's strike 3. Strikes out the side. Good work by John Gray in the second. Jerko's left at first base. And we'll go to the third. No score at Petco.
To show you what we call the hip shot sinker. This is a pitch that you throw to left-handers. Right-handers can throw it, and basically you're starting the fastball what feels like at the lefty's hip. The ball will run back in over the plate, freezing the left-hander, and you're able to steal a strike. Excellent from John Gray, because that's not a pitch that has been part of his repertoire. For Colin Ray, that is something that he's always had. So it is fun watching the growth of John Gray tonight so far.
Well described. Here's Colin Ray against Charlie Blackmon, second time through for the Rockies. First time Colin Ray faces a lineup, the opposition hits just 231. Next time through, it's 262. Third time through, 467. Again, it's a small sample size. This is just his 6th big league start. He's, very similar to John Gray. He's cutting his teeth in the big leagues. 0-1 on Charlie. I always say this, that's a good curveball, called ball 1-1-1. When you guys go up to the plate against a guy that you haven't seen, it's like a fact-finding mission the first time up.
Sometimes it's easier to face a guy when you don't know what he has, just because you don't have tendencies that you're really looking for. And that's a fly ball to Justin Upton. So your thought process is a lot simpler. I'm looking for a pitch out over the plate, and then I can swing at it. After you've seen a guy a lot of times, you know, okay, this guy's going to try to bust me in. So you start looking for pitches that can throw your approach off.
Jose takes ball 1. Jose's thrown out multi-hit games in 9 of his last 17 games, hitting .343 over his last 17. And that misses. Good eye from Reyes. He nods his head in approval like, hey, good take, and I was rewarded for it.
Just like Ricky Henderson. Yeah, Ricky, that was a good take right there, Ricky.
Good job, Ricky.
You know, the guys are starting to take to Jose Reyes. He starts to have quite a few guys being around him, smiling when he's around.
He's got big personality.
He's got a big personality. Usually making the other Latin guys smile.
Well, he plays the game with some panache.
Is that a New York word?
I'm not sure. There's a bunt attempt, and well handled by Ray. Young legs off the mound, 2 outs. Carlos Gonzalez will come up. The day after every Rockies victory, like today, get 50% off your online order at Papa John's. The promo code's RocksWin at papajohns.com. So, I mean, all the way up to about 11:55 tonight if you feel the need
for a pizza.
For a pizza, you just call Papa John's. Or you got to do it online, but then they'll arrive at your house and get the late night snack you were desiring. Cargo hit a fly ball to left his first time. Hasn't done much against the Padres this year. It's the 119 average, and that's because so many games were front loaded. Cargo struggled the first couple of months of the season, as we all know. Been a different cat the last 2 months.
Yeah, it's not fair. The Padres didn't get the real Cargo. They got the stinky Cargo.
Outside 2-0. So Cargo has hit 25 home runs in a 50-game span, and that had never been done before by a Rocky. Previous best, Dante in '95, hit 23 home runs in a 50-game span, 3-0. Vinny hit 21 in a 50-game span. Walker a couple times hit 20. .30, and that's inside, ball 4. So Cargo walks, and that'll give Nolan another opportunity here.
Nolan's been talking a lot about Cargo of late. Really, if you ask him what he sees, he says, you know what? Once Cargo started really calming down his hands, he's allowed his body to just relax and settle. So before every pitch, Cargo will set the bat and just rest it on his shoulder, and it really allows him to have that nice, easy, soft load. And that was the thing that Nolan pointed to as being the most important thing for Cargo in this huge second half that he's had.
Fly ball to center field for Nolan. And that's hard on the ground, but right at Solarte, and that'll end the inning as he gets the force at second. We played 2.5, no score. Rockies and Padres. John Graves looked good, and Colin Ray's looked good. City, South Dakota. Thanks for watching the Rockies on Root Sports. Be sure to tell us where you're watching from on Twitter at RootSports_RM using hashtag #WeRoot. First pitch to Colin Ray from John Gray is in there, strike one. We're in the third inning. Drew Goodman along with Ryan Spilborghs and Jenny Cavnar. Ray's hitting 8th in the lineup. There's a slider, and it's 0-2. And Travis Jankowski will come up next. And he took that slider off the plate. 1-2. It's all the rage lately to talk about how many innings a young pitcher has pitched. See Matt Harvey in New York, strike 3. Ray will go away. That's 4 strikeouts in the last 5 hitters. So John Gray in 2013, between his last year in Norman and pitching in Grand Junction and Modesto in the Cal League, threw 163 2/3 innings. And then the next year with Tulsa, he threw 124 1/3. This year, between Albuquerque and the Rockies, he's thrown 142 2/3 now with his work tonight. And the Rockies want to cap it somewhere in the 160 to 165 range. And it should be noted, and this is kind of strange, that there was a summer after John, I believe it was John's sophomore year, that he didn't pitch summer ball. This is a kid that has, you know, the golden arm, and yet, you know, never pitched in one of the elite summer leagues, you know, Cape Cod or the Northwoods League. And that's one of the reasons they still are building up the arm to get used to that heavy workload that, you know, if you're a big league starting pitcher, you're going to make 33, 34 starts and hopefully, you know, one day be a 200 inning guy.
Yeah, like a Madison Bumgarner who eats up 270 innings a year, but that includes postseason. It makes sense when you're not taking big loads like John Gray throughout his entire career to ease him into it. I mean, he's less than 25 years old. He's got a big right arm. There's a lot riding on how his career pans out for the Rockies.
And Jankowski on a 3-1 pitch draws a walk. Second base runner, first walk allowed by Gray, and that'll bring up Will Myers at the top of the order. Quickly, Garneau ran out to the mound. This kid Jankowski's a good-looking athlete. He is a rabbit. He can run, and that's why they have him batting 9th and not the pitcher. The thought with a lot of managers in doing it, Joe Maddon's done it prominently, is, and we've seen Tony La Russa obviously do it in the past, is to have a second leadoff guy in that 9 spot. Jankowski more than 30 bags between AA and AAA this year.
Well, Jankowski, 137 minor league steals in 326 games. This year he had 32 stolen bases in AA and AAA. And that went along with the .413 on base percentage. So he was the top of the lineup leadoff hitter. And we are going to see him steal at some point in the next 2 batters. So Gray's already shown him the quick leg kick. Then he went for a longer hold, and now he'll probably hold and go.
And there goes Jankowski. Started to, he stopped, so the Rockies can still turn it over, and they will. Nicely done. 5-4-3. Boy, that shortened up the inning, didn't it? Jankowski started, stopped, and that made the double play still available. And Nolan, who leads all third basemen in baseball in double plays, helps turn another one. Low mark of the Nationals, down 7-1. You had Jordan Zimmerman on the mound. How about all the Colorado prep players starring here in the month of September? Kirk Nice with the huge swing, as Mark described and showed you. The Mets are now 6 games up on the Nationals. The corner infielders for the Yankees, Greg Bird hit another home run yesterday out of Grandview High School. Chase Headley's had a real solid year playing third for the Yankees. He's out of Fountain Fort Carson. Here's the 2-0, and it's 3-0 on Morneau.
You know, it's funny, as Morneau was talking about the shadows yesterday, he said it felt like he was hitting in a strobe light. I was like, what do you mean a strobe light? I was like, well, the lighting. There was lighting because of the lights and the way the sun was shining. It was on the mound. It was across the grass. And then it was light back in the batter's box. And he said the light was in his face. He's like, I've never chased so many high fastballs in my life. And I was like, yep, that was it.
This ball back up the middle and another base hit for Morneau. So a leadoff single here in the 4th inning. First time the Rockies have had the leadoff man on. Yesterday was awful. We talked to a bunch of guys in the clubhouse before the game, and everybody said, and there it is, everybody said it was nearly impossible to hit late in the game. Ben Paulson said, how many guys actually made contact in the last 3 innings? Not many.
Not many. And Justin Miller, not to take anything away from him, struck out 4 straight batters. I asked Justin, I said, hey, have you ever done that before? He goes, oh, yeah, minor leagues a bunch of times. I've struck out 4 times in a row many times. 5 was my record in 1 game.
Did you do that in the big leagues?
No, minor leagues. And all the guys, all my teammates had hats in my locker room.
What you just hope for, I would imagine, Spilly, is on the night you punched out 5 times that you weren't getting on a bus that night.
Why? I just wanted to run me over.
Yeah, you were getting on it, not getting in front of it.
Yeah. Now, that was the thing we would do. If you had the hat trick in the minor leagues, the whole team would throw their hat in your locker, win or lose.
This ball is lined to right field, and Kemp lays out and can't make the catch. It is in foul ground. Good effort by Matt.
Well, you know Matt Kemp is going to go put effort. He is a football player by heart. Here he is trying to slide in, try to atone for last night. The play we have already mentioned, the big 2-run error. He did say the sun was in his eyes yesterday. And if we get a chance to look at where he's standing, Matt Kemp is basically guarding the right field line now.
And that's a good look at curveball.
You want to see a right fielder hugging the line, that is about as much of the right field line as you can possibly cover. He is covering that portion of the field and all of the foul territory.
And that curveball's left up, and it's lined a pretty deep left field, but Upton will get there on the edge of the track. 1 out. Bring up Ben Paulson. Struck out on that inside sinker his first time.
Now Matt Kemp gets to walk back to where he normally plays right field, which is a long walk for him. It's going to take him a while to get over there.
Ben's got his dad in town, the head coach of Winthrop University, baseball program that won 40 games last year, beat Clemson, beat South Carolina during the regular season. And this is on the ground to short. Jerko will take it himself and turn to double play. So the Rockies turned to double play last half inning, and now the Padres return the favor. Middle of 4, no score.
Rockies today, about 12 of them, got the chance to go over to Coronado Island and visit with some of the Navy SEALs. Of course, San Diego, a huge military town. The Rockies lucky enough to get to kind of go through some of their training regiments, or at least see what their training regiments were like. David Hale and Daniel Descalso, two of those, and here were part of their experiences.
It's pretty cool to kind of see, put into perspective what they do, and they told us some stories from their boot camp buds training program, and then they let us mess around with some guns that had been put some lasers in them, and we got to get on this like video screen and shoot them. It was pretty incredible.
You know, those guys are amazing what they go through to complete SEAL training, and you know, just to get ready for their missions and all that. So what those guys, their preparation and their hard work is you know, far and beyond anything we've ever experienced.
Solarte with the leadoff double there to start the fourth inning. Talking about their experiences again, going to Coronado Island though, and just watching what the Navy SEALs have to go through. Jeff Bridich joined the team, and he told me while they were there, one of the Navy SEALs actually quit. And to watch that experience, he said, was just so intense. But again, so appreciative of the sacrifice that those, you know, men and women are going through over there. And also, he mentioned that they heard the word teammate so many times that he lost count. And he said those are true teammates. They're out there training for literally life or death, and again, to fight for our freedom. So pretty cool that the Rockies got to go over and experience that today, guys.
Yeah, that is really special. I happened to be over at Coronado, and I saw some SEALs go by on a run on the beach. And
you go running with them?
No, because you stand back with great respect at what they're doing, the training, and I know you've read quite a bit, as I have, on some of the literature that's come out in the last couple of years. As Matt Kemp looks at that pitch, it's a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. What they've gone through, the training, just a special, unique breed, and thank goodness we have so many good folks like that. 1-1 on Kemp. Leadoff double by Solarte in a scoreless game, and that pitch just beneath the knees, and it's 2-1. Kemp hit a fly ball to center field his first time up. Matt, over his last 22 games, has hit .326 with 8 home runs and 31 RBIs.
Gray's been going into Matt Kemp this entire bat.
And that's a big out that's going to occur here. Kemp's going to pop out to second. DJ waiting. He's got it. 1 out.
I want to tell you a story that Pat Burgess, the Rockies bullpen coach, told me about the Navy SEAL experience today, and something that Jenny was alluding to with Jeff Bridich about mentioning teammates. And 80% of the Navy SEALs don't make it through those boot camp. Only about 20% make it. And the separating factor, Drew, that they said differentiates between failure and making it are the guys that worry more about their teammates than they do themselves. So the guys that actually are trying to continue on because you're continuing on, because I'm fighting for you, are the ones that make it.
And that bond, everything I've read, that bond is so unique, and I think it's neat that they allowed some of our guys to go over there and get a feel for what they do, and that's the second straight year, I think maybe a third straight year, that
as long as I've come to San Diego, I was able to go do it 1 year too. So I think the Rockies have been friends with the Navy SEALs here in San Diego since 2008.
Upton takes in. It's 2-0. This year, 20-20 guys. He was talking about 30-30 guys. You know, Cargo's been a 20-20 guy before. Ryan Braun's got 25 home runs, 22 stolen bases. Paul Goldschmidt, 27 home runs, 21 stolen bases. Upton's a bag shy. He's 24-19 right now, swung on and missed. Manny Machado's got a chance, 26 home runs, 17 stolen bases. And Marte with the Pirates has a chance, 16 home runs, 22 stolen bases. Select group.
Very select.
2-1 on the dangerous Upton. Good fastball. Late life on that. It's 2-2.
3-4 hitters against John Gray so far in his short career. 12 for 25. That's a .480 batting average, 10 RBIs, 12 runs. So far this inning, what has impressed me, he has been going inside to guys like Matt Kemp. Curious if he goes in again.
If he goes slider here. He does. Strike 3. Beautiful pitch. Struck him out on the outer edge. Justin doesn't want to leave, but that was pretty clearly a strike. All over the outside corners. You see on the 4th strike zone. 2 outs.
Well, and this is the importance of starting to throw the ball inside, because it gets the hitter thinking in, and then he can throw the slider down and away, which will freeze him up. If he consistently stay outside from the hitter, they'll be able to punch that into right field. Throw the occasional fastballs in, and this inning he's really been throwing a lot of them inside. It makes the hitters aware of that pitch, and it opens up the outside with that slider.
Jerko soft single to center his first time up, and that slider's down 1-0. This is one of those big situations. You're in a scoreless game. You know, if you're John Gray, all right, their guy's pitching well. They got a runner in scoring position. The focus has to be even more acute. You have a guy that swung the bat well in the second half at the plate, Jed Jerko. Here's the 1-0, and that fastball just a little bit above the belt. It's pretty tight zone for Mark Wegner tonight. Not given much east and west or north and south. I think it's a very fair zone, but it's not one that's expansive. Jerko 302 over his last 11. Good pitch right on the outside corner. Well, that's a great, not a good, that's a great 2-0 pitch.
You can't hit it. Even if you're looking fastball, that's not in the zone as a hitter you're looking for. You're looking right down the middle on a silver platter, belt high, and that's not even in a place where you can fire the bat.
High drive, deep left. It's turned foul by a bunch, so it's a 2-2 count. That was looked like a changeup up in the zone. He hasn't thrown many changeups so far. It's been fastball slider. He's had great command of the heater.
You're right, and that is a pitch that he is trying to work on. 2-1 in a fastball count, being able to throw the changeup. That is an important pitch for his growth. Being able to command off-speed pitches like his changeup in hitters' counts.
2-2 on the ground to short. Jose's got it. He whips it across, and a nice job of pitching by John Gray. Leadoff double to Solarte, and he gets Kemp, Upton, and Jerko in order.
That's it. Yeah,
that's it.
Nothing.
John Gray, a bunch of nothing against him. Colin Ray, a bunch of nothing against him. John Gray's been really impressive. 5 strikeouts, just 1 walk so far, 58 pitches. This is the best he's pitched since those back-to-back outings. The last one culminating, or the first one in New York, where he gave up just 1 hit. good to see. Colin Ray has shown a very good curveball. It'll go 8-9-1 here in the 5th inning for the Rockies. Dustin Garneau walked his first time up on 4 pitches. So the minor leagues are done throughout baseball. And we'll share with you some individual accomplishments from the Rockies system this year. Asheville's the only team that will continue on to the postseason. But since Dustin Garneau's up, we'll brag on Dustin a little bit. Most of his work, obviously, this year with Albuquerque. And Garneau tied for the team lead in home runs with 15. He had 274, knocked in 61. This is popped to center. And Jankowski makes the catch. He was tied for the team lead in home runs with the veteran Roger Bernardino. Roger had 15 and drove in 62. Trevor Story for Albuquerque in 61 games, because remember, he was in New Britain the first part of the year. 277, 10 home runs, 40 driven in, 20 doubles, 4 triples. So Spilly, 34 extra base hits in 61 games for Trevor Story. And if you couple it with what he did in New Britain, he had 20 homers and 40 doubles this year.
That's such a fantastic year for Trevor Story, being in Double-A with just the growth that he's had. Texas boy getting a chance, and I'm excited to see him continuing to move forward. I know coming into spring training, he's probably not going to be here in September with the Rockies. The roster spots are filled. Corey Dickerson is back. 40-man is done. So just being able to take a break, get ready for a little fall league or some whatever the Rockies have in store for him.
That's outside. It's 3-0 on John Gray. John, take. Yell to him, Spilly.
Take it, John.
What a baby. Yeah, Corey Dickerson is back. He was activated today, so he is available. And
good take.
Good chance. There's Corey next to Cargo, or right behind Cargo. Good chance you'll see Corey in the starting lineup tomorrow. He did very well on his rehab assignment. The ribs have all healed. I asked Corey about Trevor Story because he played with him in Albuquerque the last few days. John Gray is out, 2 outs. And he was really impressed with him. And he saw him during spring training. He was really impressed with how physical he is, how athletic he was at shortstop. Impressed with how he made adjustments, pitch to pitch, at bat to at bat.
Oh, I had the chance to see them in the whole New Britain Rockcats, who ended up finishing the season 69 and 71. They actually won 8 games in a row and gave themselves a chance to finish the season 500. At one point, they were 14 games over 500. And I know, talking to the guys and the coaching staff, Darren Everson is great over there. Ron Gideon spent a lot of time. He's actually here right now with the Rockies. They're very proud of that New Britain Rockcats team.
2 outs. Charlie Blackmon takes a curveball for ball 1. Their roster, when they came out of the gate so hot, they lost some guys. You know, Johan Flande was terrific down there, and Johan ended up in the big leagues. And Trevor Story was moved on after 60-some-odd games to AAA. This ball's well hit to center field. Did Charlie get enough of it? Not quite. Jankowski makes the catch out there, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Colin Ray. Middle of 5, still scoreless, just 2 hits apiece.
of the fifth, and part of it is because John Gray's been pitching so well. But we talk about these little adjustments that guys are making, and John Gray is making some adjustments in the big league level. On the left, he's doing his windup where he steps back. This is early in their season in August. Now tonight, he's not doing the big windup step back. He's just taking an easy step forward. I think part of the reason why is it keeps him straight line towards the plate. And that is something when John Gray takes the big step back, creates that big windup, at times he falls over towards the first base side of the bag. This little short step that he's taking allows him to keep his balance and pitch more directly towards Dustin Garneau. And as we've seen already, he has been very effective in the strike zone.
So here he goes against Derek Norris, and his first pitch misses 1-0 on Norris. He struck him out his first time on a fastball away. Fifth inning, the only hits for the Padres, a single by Jerko in the second and a double by Solarte in the fourth. Too tall, 2-0. Norris through June 2nd was hitting .287, just .218 since then. Came down from Oakland. Those many offseason deals that the Padres made didn't catch up there. It's 2-1. Just continuing to highlight some of the minor league individual performances.
Let's do it. I love this. This is fun.
New Britain Rockies. Tom Murphy, another guy, had got moved, and Tom also was coached by Jim Tracy for Team USA during the Pan American Games, and Murph did a good job there. He ended up hitting 20 home runs between AA and AAA this year. Good looking catching prospect for the Rockies. Shane Carl won 14 games, a .348 ERA for the Rockies. Jeff Hoffman, who was one of the prize pickups in the Tulowitzki deal from Toronto, through 7 games, a .322 ERA. That pitch misses, and a leadoff walk to Norris. Struck out 29 and 36 in the third, walked only 10. Harrison Musgrave, who was 10-1 in Modesto and got moved up, a left-hander, 3-4, but a .318 ERA after just dominating the Cal League. He was very, very solid in AA for New Britain. So with Derek Norris on, Corey Spangenberg will come up. Tough man to double up. Runs well, and he's coming out of the left side of the box. Well, we're talking minor leagues, so we should tell you about what you can do if you go to abqisotopes.com. You can find the latest Albuquerque Isotopes jerseys, t-shirts, novelties, plenty more. Albuquerque Isotopes, the proud AAA affiliate of the Colorado Rockies. We appreciate all our viewers down in New Mexico. They get the double bonus. They get to watch their Isotopes play, future Rockies, and then turn on the tube, and when they're not driving up I-25 to see them in person, see how the Rockies are doing. Ball one on Spangenberg. Going to Modesto in the California League. Okay, another guy, by the way, to keep your eyes open for in the next year or so. Left-handed reliever, former starter, swung on a miss, Sam Moll. Not a big guy, but a lefty who can really bring it. And he was terrific with Modesto, and then had an ERA just over 1 when he got moved up to New Britain this past year. In fact, he had better numbers. As good as he was in Modesto, his numbers got even better in New Britain. And that's a strike. 1-2. Well, you can't talk about New Britain and not mention Raimel Tapia. He had .305 this year, 12 home runs, 71 driven in, 34 doubles, 9 triples, 26 stolen bases. He truly is a 5-tool prospect. Outside.
I think the part of Tapia that people really, really love is the fact that he can hit a ball anywhere. They're talking about very similar to, not Vlad Guerrero type, but similar. Pablo Sandoval was a notorious bad ball hitter. This is a bad ball hitter in the minor leagues, which when he gets to the major leagues, will play to him even better because there's not as many bad pitches. He can get more pitches in the zone.
Swung on and missed. Spangenberg, a strikeout victim. That is 6 now for John Gray. 1 out, and that'll bring up the pitcher, Ray.
It all starts at the fastball location. He had Spangenberg thinking fastball in. He threw him several of them over the last 2 at-bats, and that ball just falls off the table. There's this changeup that he's been working on. That's not the slider.
Ray struck out looking his first time. Don't lose your focus here. He's going to try to lay down a bunt. Another name to keep your eyes on in the not too distant future. Ryan McMahon, corner infielder, third baseman. Going to get some work at first base coming up. 300 average, 18 home runs, 75 driven in, 6 triples, 43 doubles for McMahon.
Last year came on the scene in Asheville. I believe he hit over 30 home runs. Of course, Asheville, right field in Asheville is tailor-made for a left-handed batter. You can see some pretty big power numbers, but more importantly, for him to go into high A and continue the assault on pitchers, it's great to see.
Goes for bunt. Gray's got to go to first with it. He goes to DJ. 2 outs, and Morris at second base for Travis Jankowski. He's going to work out in the offseason with Nolan Arenado. I mean, they're Southern California, Orange County guys. Nolan likes to take care of the OC guys.
Well, and they said McMahon's glove is good. It's not like he's a slouch at third base and can just hit. They're saying this guy can play some real good defense. I've heard comparisons to Nolan until you come to the big leagues and actually play defense like Nolan Arenado. You can't even be in the same breath.
Well, typical of some minor league infielders, he's made a bunch of errors this year. He made close to 40 errors. You say, whoa, 40 errors. You know, some were throwing, and Nolan had those lapses at times in the minor leagues. And part of the, and again, speak to this, Billy, part of the process of becoming a big leaguer, just getting here, but then staying here, is not just the adjusting physically, but it's maturing as a person and understanding day to day what you have to do to play at a consistently high level. Isn't that part of it?
You have to learn your limits. You're right. You got to learn when to sleep, when to eat, when to take the extra rest, when to lay off all the extra BP.
Just off the plate, 2-0.
And I think with Nolan, one of the beautiful things about watching Nolan, how many times on a ground ball, foul ball, do we see him pick it and try to make the throw to first? Just to test his limits. And I think that's part of the minor leagues. When you're in the minor leagues, don't be afraid to make errors. Nolan made 23 errors in Tulsa in 2012. Can't be afraid to make the errors.
2-1. Again, another really well-placed 2-0 fastball on the outer edge. So it's 2-1 on Jankowski. Pennsylvania kid who went to Stony Brook.
Real men will go there, right, Drew?
Absolutely. Out on the island, got to be a little tougher playing the Northeast. 2-2. Came down to UCSB and Stony Brook for you, didn't it?
No.
It didn't?
No, it was just UCSB. I mean, I was too scared to leave Santa Barbara.
It's easier for you to spell.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't put me on the spot.
Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Runner at second. No score in the 5th. And that's line to center. It's going to stay up, though, for Charlie. Hit hard. Charlie catches the line drive. We'll go to the 6th inning. Couple of bagels on the scoreboard. Gray has been outstanding.
and I took a little field trip to AleSmith Brewery. They're the home of the Tony Gwynn Pale Ale 394. Of course, 394 was the batting average that Tony Gwynn had in 1994. So I talked with the owner at AleSmith, and he said this is why Tony Gwynn made the beer.
He told a story about why he wanted a beer, and it goes back to Tom Seaver's wine that he had made for him that he would share with people at the Hall of Fame induction, although the rumor has it he didn't like sharing it with people that hit him too well. Well, Tony went 1 for 3 his first time he faced Tom, and he was always begging for the wine. He'd say, sorry, you're not getting any. So Tony decided, I'm going to make a beer for the hitters and for the everyday person.
So just for the hitters. So Peter Zion, kind enough to give us a tour over there at AleSmith. They're getting ready to head out to Denver, actually, for the Great American Beer Festival here in a couple of weeks. But Spilly and I got to go through listening to that process and how it came about that he met Tony Gwynn, and just so neat. It happened last March, and of course Tony passed away last summer in June. So they had those 3 short months to really get to know Tony and try and craft and create this beer that was just like him. And I think Tony picked their company because of the integrity they talk about that they have, and very similar qualities to how Tony approached the game of baseball. So it was fun to sit there and chat some ball and maybe try a beer. It maybe happened today, Spilly, but the beer is cool because Tony said he wanted it light with a kick, and clearly those aren't craft brewery terms, but they made one, and it does taste like it's light with a kick, right, Spilly?
I thought it tasted fantastic, and it took Tony Gwynn, what was it, Jenny, 3 separate times to get it just right where he really enjoyed it.
And with Tony, it was going to be just right? The guy was a perfectionist when it came to hitting, and he was going to be a perfectionist when he crafted his beer.
So basically we know where we're going after the ball game now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Go have one for Tony.
And it is different coming to San Diego and not seeing Tony. After a 3-0 count, Reyes lets that go by. That was the best pitch to hit that he saw. So a strikeout of Reyes by Colin Ray. That's his 4th strikeout of the ball game. All 4 have been caught looking. So he's got some deception going on.
He has, and Jose Reyes 2 times got fooled on a fastball that was more or less right down the middle.
Cargo a fly ball to left field, and he walked on 4 pitches in the 3rd.
Well, it's an interesting shift. Yanger V. Solarte, who is playing 3rd, has moved into the second base position, but Yanger V. also plays second base when he gets the opportunity to play there. So it is funny watching guys move the shift. So Jed Jerko is the only guy playing short, technically 3rd at this time. Are we going to have to, if he hits a ball to him, is that a 5-3?
It would be. This is being called by Ray, and finally Jerko arrives to make the catch. 2 outs. Yeah, I mean, it's this day and age throws you off, but you know, the 3rd baseman, he's listed as 5, right? So if he's on the right side, it's still 5-3. But you make a mental note of where he was positioned, right? Enough on that. 2 outs. Nolan Arenado at the plate. Nolan a fly ball to center field, and he hit a sharp ground ball to 3rd.
It's only Ray's 6th strike. First pitch strike in 21 batters.
That doesn't portend generally to a guy that's got a shutout going with 2 outs in the 6th inning. That's inside 1-1. One of the neat things to see over the last month has been the relationship and the closeness that has developed between Nolan Arenado and Carlos Gonzalez.
Well, they're pushing each other. You have 2 guys that are, one's a superstar, one's breaking into being one, and they're pushing each other. They are the Bash brothers of this day and age. They are 2 guys that are leading the National League in home runs. You know,
and when Cargo and Chula were both healthy at the same time, we'd see, one would hit a home run, the other guy would, because they were, batting, in front of each other or behind each other. This ball's grounded. They did the big home run, the hug at the plate. And it was beautiful to see. And now we're seeing that between Cargo and Nolan. They're lockering next to each other a lot of times on the road, depending on how the visiting club sets it up. And even if they're not, you see them hanging out together. You see them stretching together. And we're going to play next half inning a little vignette from Cargo that gives you a little insight more into his personality. But it's really been neat to watch these two guys. And they were always good friends, but become that much closer. And listen, you spent most of your life in a clubhouse. You've even witnessed it, right?
You can't help it. And they have grown so close in this time, just pushing each other.
Ooh, he got a hanger, and he just missed it. Upton comes in and makes the catch, and that's 8 in a row set down by Colin Ray. Middle of 6, still scoreless in San Diego. To the bottom of the 6th inning. So Cargo during stretch today messing around with Rockies third base coach Stu Cole.
One of the coaches from the Rockies, his name is Stu Cole. Stu, tell the people, tell the fans, how does it feel to be the ugliest coach in the league?
Let me tell you something about Carlos Gonzalez. Cargo is one of the ugliest men in baseball. And I tell you no lie when I say this. He is the ugliest man in baseball, bar none.
Come on,
look at this face.
Look at this. Look at this.
This is a face only a mother can love right here.
A lot of time spent together.
Oh, that's the best. Stu Cole, I've had him since high A, and the guy just keeps it loose. You can see the teammates, the guys, they love Stu Cole.
Stu is steady, man. Stu is the same every single day. Well, the Rockies are going to go to their bullpen. 75 pitches for John Gray. I know folks at home, when's he going to go longer? It's part of the plan this year. You know it. It's been talked about quite a bit over the last month since he came up. So he was terrific, in a word, John Gray. 5 innings, no runs, 2 hits, a walk, and 6 strikeouts. And he visits with Johan Flande on the bench. And now Gonzalez, Germain facing the top of the order, Will Myers. The 6 strikeouts ties his career high. He had 6 strikeouts against the Pirates and 4 1/3 on the road at PNC. That to me was very similar to his work against the Mets on the road. Would you concur?
I totally concur with you, Drew, and I don't even know what that means.
I told you, man. UCSB education rearing its head once again.
You know what I loved about tonight was that John Gray really pitched inside to right-handed hitters. He started doing it in the 2nd inning, second time through the lineup with some of the big guys, the Matt Kemp, the Justin Upton, and then second time through to Spangenberg after throwing those sinkers in, went to the changeup. So he was setting up hitters tonight in a much different manner than we're just accustomed to seeing. It wasn't just throwing. Part of that, you have to tip your cap to Dustin Garneau, who's behind the plate making the calls, but still pitching with intent. I love John Gray's outing tonight.
Hey, Jenny.
Yes.
Would you concur?
I would concur.
Okay.
I do know what that means, too. You know, I think what's interesting is Walt Weiss said...
Hold on, Jenny. Will Myers just hit one of country mile. That kid caught it, too. Nice job. 1-0 San Diego. Will Myers with his 6th home run, and I believe that's his first since he's come back from the disabled list, being out more than 2 months. May 8th was his last home run.
Jermaine got out in front of him, and this is a changeup that just sat flat. Will Myers knew right off the bat that that was a home run, and again, another start for John Gray. He wasn't going to have a chance for tonight's win. Regardless, it was going to be a no decision, but 1-0 San Diego.
Inside on Solarte. Let's get back to Jenny. Jenny, well, we're going to watch one more time. And unfortunately, it looks the same. 1-1 on Solarte, and that is lined and caught by DJ LeMahieu. So it's 1-0 on the 409-foot home run by Myers. Matt Kemp coming up, and now we'll go to Jenny.
All right, I'll get my thought in quick here before anything else happens. You know, Walt Weiss said today he's looking for more consistency from John Gray as the season comes to an end. I think he saw that today more than anything. And I even talked to Jeff Bridich a little bit, and I said, are you pleased with the way John Gray's coming along? And obviously with the innings limit he has, the pitch limit he has in every outing. Because to be honest with you, I wasn't even expecting him to be here at this point. So really, John Gray's already exceeded the expectations of management and where they wanted him to be. So I think this is a great stepping stone. And again, just one more outing that you can put in your collection as you go into the offseason. You have something to work for. You have that experience under your belt. So now you can prepare to be a full-time big leaguer next year.
The thing I like about him is, you know, we see him, Jenny, on the off days, and there's a focus to him. It's not, there have been guys who shall remain nameless, and Spill, you've had teammates this way that you can completely tell they were just happy to be here. They were just happy to be in the big leagues. John Gray's not about that. John Gray wants to figure this thing out, and he wants to dominate. He wants to be outstanding, and you can see that just how he moves around on the days he's not pitching.
Kind of hoping he's the type of guy that on the days he's pitching, you can't even look at him. I want him to get to that level, and I think in general, I always talk about pitchers having an edge. Keep an edge over the hitter. It's the pitcher that holds the ball and throws the white thing towards the plate. It is frightening at times when a guy is wild and you know he has a big fastball. You have all the power. Keep your edge. If you can hold a persona on that mound that strikes fear, you hold the cards to owning the guy at the plate.
2-1 on Kemp. That's a good changeup, and it's 2-2. Now, when you're in big league cities, and obviously when you're playing a series, typically it's 3 games, sometimes 4 games, and if you go out and grab a bite or something after a game, I'm sure from time to time you run into somebody on the other team, or maybe it's in spring training. This ball is lined to right, base hit. And Cargo will make sure Kemp stays at first base, so it's a 1-out single for Kemp. But I'm sure there were some guys that you faced, bullpen guys that were really intimidating on the other side, and if you happen to meet him and you realize, wait a second, this guy's a normal guy, did it change the dynamic at all?
100%, and I will cite Brad Penny. I mean, I'm not afraid to say his name anymore. Back in the day I was, and we met him one night. Sweetest guy you've ever met, and whatever edge he had, I mean, he would grunt. There was a stretch against when he was with the Dodgers. He beat the Rockies, it felt like 100 times.
Well, there was one year, Spilly, when you were playing, he faced the Rockies. I'm pretty sure he faced them every series that one year and went 6-0 against the Rockies. So I know that's the year you're referring to.
It is the year I'm referring. And then once we, as a group, we kind of met him, never had that power over us again. We weren't scared of him anymore. Just by meeting him, he was a nice guy.
Big swing and a miss from Upton. So basically what he should have done is when he saw you guys turned around and walked out, kept that image that he had.
If you would have walked out or saw us and told us to leave, oh, we would have all just bolted. We would have left the restaurant.
And a ground ball through the vacant right side. Kemp shuts it down at second, and they're 2 on, so it's been a rough appearance so far for Gonzalez-Germain. Home run, line out, single, and Jed Jerko coming up.
Take a behind-the-scenes tour of Coors Field. Group and individual tickets available year-round. Call 303-ROCKIES.
Jerko tonight, a single and a ground ball to short. By the way, Matt Kemp at second base with that base hit has now reached in 28 straight. It's the longest active streak in the National League. Edwin Encarnacion has reached in 37 straight for Toronto over in the other league. Rex Brothers up. Looking for a ground ball, and he doesn't get it. He gets a line drive. It's going to twist foul, fortunately, and it's just a hard strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. This year, Jed Jerko was struggling so much. He got sent out to AAA. He's been much better offensively since his return.
Going back to my Brad Penny story about keeping that focus and that intimidation factor on the mound after 2007, where I said he beat the Rockies 100 times. He went 0-0 and in 6 innings pitched, 15 hits, had a 12 ERA, 11 earned runs.
Wow.
So I told you got to keep that intimidation factor.
First 46 games for Jed Jerko this year. He hit .210, 2 home runs, just 11 RBIs. He was sent out. And since he's returned, .262, 11 home runs, 35 RBIs. And that is caught by Morneau, and Kemp gets back, so there's 2 gone. Derek Norris coming up. Guy's been a Rocky killer this year. Germain's got to keep it a 1-0 game. Strikeout and a walk against Gray. Dino podcast, most consecutive starts with a no decision to start their career since 1914. John Gray's got 7. Al Levine 7. That kind of surprises me. I would think it would be longer than that. Somebody had a stretch, but John Gray's going to depart this ball game with the same record he had coming in. Zip and zip. The ERA is going to go down, though. He did not give up a run in 5 innings. Again, just 2 hits, couple walks, 6 strikeouts.
Well, Colin Ray in the same amount of starts is 2-2. He got a win his very first time going 5 innings.
Justin with play right around the railing, and Matt wanted to tag and move on, but Matt, we're going to play 3 outs today in this game.
That's how they play every time.
Yeah, Will Myers a home run, 1-0 Padres. Picture the National League Central, the Cardinals just ridiculously good despite a number of injuries. The Pirates have had a great year. The Cubs have had a great year. And so it's the Pirates and Cubs right now. The Cubs are closing in on the Pirates, though, for the top spot of the 2 wild cards. Here's Justin Morneau to lead things off against Colin Ray. Ray's enjoying his best big league outing.
And Ray right now is at 85 pitches, and so far this season he's thrown in the big leagues up to 94 pitches. So he's got some pitches he can still work with.
Misses with that curveball. It's 2-0. Morneau is the only Rocky to reach twice against him. A walk in the second and a base hit up the middle in the fourth. 8 straight retired by Colin Ray, the 25-year-old out of Indiana State. Same school as our old friend Clint Barmas, who's watching in the dugout for the Padres. Solarte comes up with it, 1 out.
On the road, traveling and want to watch your Rockies? Subscribe to MLB.TV Premium for live or on demand on over 400 devices. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking, and more. I got a famous Indiana State alum for you, Drew. Tommy John.
Tommy John went to Indiana State. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. It was Doug Marino. He tied me up.
Yeah, there's a very famous surgical procedure that's been named after him. Are you aware of that?
After Tommy John?
Yes.
What's it called?
It would be called the Tommy John surgery. And then there's the Quackenbush surgery, and you really don't want to have that.
No.
I mean, if you think Tommy John's a serious procedure, you have the Quackenbush, you got all kinds of issues. 0-1. 1-1.
I can see what makes Ray so difficult. He has a little bit of a sink. He has pretty good deception when he turns his body, and just enough of an off-speed pitch with the curveball that keeps the hitters off balance.
One quick footnote on the Purple Dino tweet. Levine pitched 120 games in relief prior to becoming a starting pitcher, and he was actually 3-5 as a reliever. And then when he became a starter, his first 7 starts, he got a no decision. So John Gray's really the first guy to arrive as a starter. 7 starts, no decisions. That's never happened before, I guess, since 1914. Doug Marino all over that, as always. Thank you, Dougie. 1-2 on DJ, a single back in the second. Inside. So tonight, Spilly, this is the kind of game that you guys played at Petco.
Yeah, these aren't fun games to play. I mean, position players, you want to score 11, 12 runs. You don't want to be 1-0, only have 2 hits. But yeah, this feels like Petco a couple years ago. This is not the 6.42 runs per game Petco.
Two. And way inside again. 3-2. See what Derek Norris puts down here.
Well, we talked about it earlier on a ball to Jed Jerko. It was a fastball in, followed by a slider away after he moved him. But you wanted to see 2 fastballs in.
This is chopped up the middle. Jerko's got it. 2 gone. You know what's going to happen here, Spilly? Ben Paulson's going to tie it up. You like that call?
I love it. I want to hear your call.
I'm just going to watch.
Next pitch right now is going to be Ray's 95th pitch, the most he's ever thrown in a major league game.
Curveball's down. Ben tonight caught looking on a hip side sinker, and he grounded into a 6-3 double play. This ball well hit left center field. Get out. Come on, get out. Oh, that's not right. Jankowski tracks it down right near the top of the wall. Give me a high five anyhow.
That was a good play.
Sports is brought to you by the Ford Focus. Big MPGs and fun to drive Ford. Go further. By Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. And by CenturyLink, your link to what's next. Special place, San Diego. The Rockies trailing 1-0. The difference in this game, a Will Myers home run against Gonzalez Germain. And now as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning, Rex Brothers will take over for Colorado. 11 in a row retired by Colin Ray in his 6th big league start. Second stint with the Rockies this year for Rex. And the first man he'll face is Corey Spangenberg. He lays down a bunt, and there's Nolan, and thankfully the Rockies second baseman DJ LeMahieu is 6'4". He makes the catch, 1 out.
That's an excellent bunt by Spangenberg, and we love to watch him run down that first baseline, but Nolan, you shouldn't even mess with him. You might as well just pull it towards first base. Keep him away from the baseball. You pull that towards first base, you probably have a shot. You bunt it to that guy, the black hole, you're out. There's a 6'4" high pants Kelly stretching out.
High pants Kelly. So Colin Ray's evening will be done. Melvin Upton Jr., or as his brother still calls him, BJ, will hit here in the 7th. Do you see him today in the clubhouse?
I did not go in there today.
You still call him BJ?
It's a really tough for me to call him Melvin.
I told this story on the air. I asked BJ when the Rockies were playing the Padres in the previous series in Denver. I said, what are you calling your brother these days? He goes, BJ.
Well, speaking of brothers or brotherly, sisterly love, Serena and Venus today.
Wow. Can you imagine how gut-wrenching for Mr. and Mrs. Williams watching that? And if you missed it, it was a fun match to watch. Got to see a good portion of it. Serena wins 6-2, 1-6. Venus came back, blew her out the second, and then 6-3. Was it 6-3 in the third? I think it was 6-3 in the third. So Serena moves on to the semis, now 2 victories away from a grand slam. 1-0 on Upton. On the outside corner for a strike at 93. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, Melvin got ejected out of yesterday's game for arguing a ball and strike after he made an out at first base with John Axford closing in the 9th. A little short fused.
Two and 1. Foul, a fastball at 94, 2-2.
Looking for a great deal? Get a Coca-Cola value pack available September 18th through the 20th versus the San Diego Padres for either $59 or $79, depending on seat location.
Most of Rex's work in Albuquerque this year. Slider lined right at Justin Morneau, who caught it in the air. 2 outs. That'll bring up the guy who just made that great running catch out there. This is a fluid-looking athlete, Travis Jankowski.
That was a fantastic play, and we will give credit when credit is due. The ability to just cover ground at Petco Park, it used to be a lot bigger. You don't need to cover it as much, but you want to see a great route. Watch how fast he reaches top speed. That is covering quite a bit of ground and gets to the fence just in time. That is not an easy play. And he looked great doing it. I mean, that's a nice running stride.
Inside on Jankowski. He stole 71 bases at Lake Elsinore in 2013. That's a lot of bags.
That's a lot of bags. He had a .413 on base percentage this year, so he's taking his walks, he's getting on base, he's hitting.
That's the 9th most in Padres minor league history, the 71 bags. Where's that?
That's the 9th most?
I know.
71?
Who's the 8 guys who stole more than that? 71 bags. That's what
a lot. Yeah.
That's from a bygone era, I'll tell you that much. This ball's on the ground at second. And DJ's got a good inning for Rex. 1, 2, 3 in the 7th. So we go to the 8th. Rockies running out of outs to work with. They trail 1-0. They've been 2 hits so far, but now they'll work against the bullpen of San Diego.
We head to the top of the 8th. The Padres have a 1-0 lead over the Rockies. Nick Hundley not playing for the 2nd straight day. He's dealing with that neck stiffness, so we hope to have an update on him tomorrow. But today is his birthday. We want to wish him a very happy birthday and go all the way back to his 5th birthday. His dad was a football coach at Oregon State, and some of the players had a special message.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
So Nick grew up the son of a coach, and his dad was with several different football teams over the course of his life, but with Oregon State here on his 5th birthday, Nick was pretty happy there. You can see more of Nick Hundley, his parents, and hear from his coaches this coming Friday on an all-new Rockies Real Time, the gift of the game. Nick Hundley will dive into Nick's past and see how all those people, from his parents to his coaches, fostered Nick's love for baseball. And as a coach's son, he did move from city to city, but at each stop he was surrounded by people that helped shape him as a ball player and now as a man. It's a special edition of Rockies Real Time, and it's coming up on Friday. It's a project we've been working on for quite some time, so looking forward to sharing that and hearing more about Nick's life. And again, being a coach's kid, I feel for Nick.
Well, yes, you are a coach's kid. Your dad, Steve, one of the all-time baseball coaches in the history of Colorado sports. And what was interesting today in the clubhouse is that the players tried to replicate that same scene that we just showed you many years later, and they picked up Nick and passed him around guy to guy. Garneau pops this up around the mound. Will Myers will make the catch, and everything was going fine until Rafael Ynoa dropped him.
Okay.
Handed him to the wrong guy.
Yeah, Rafael wasn't quite big enough.
And you know what? You would think a guy with soft hands like Rafael Ynoa, being an infielder, would be able to handle that. But
yeah. Well, here comes Corey Dickerson. He'll pinch hit for Rex Brothers with 1 out in the 8th inning. 12 in a row have been set down by the Padres. Obviously, the first 11, the work of Colin Ray, but now Kevin Quackenbush getting Dustin Garneau. Dickerson has had a tough year. The plantar fascia got him a couple times, and then the broken ribs. You almost forget, I mean, with the injury to Justin Morneau and Corey Dickerson, these are two guys that are going to hit in the middle of your lineup every game. You go back to the start of the year, and if you have health, you have just think of the middle of the lineup and the year DJ's had also. You have Charlie 1. We'll go Charlie 1. You have DJ. You could have Cargo, Tulo, Morneau, Arenado. Dickerson's going to line out here. Dickerson. I mean, you got a guy who can hit 30 home runs, batting 6th or 7th in the lineup.
I think it was the other day where the Rockies are playing the Giants, and the Giants made the comment, how are you guys this far under 500? Like, with the lineup and some of the guys you're running out there, how? And that's just baseball. I mean, talk about missing some arms. Adam Ottavino. I mean, Ottavino was turning into one of baseball's best late-inning guys.
I'll tell you some good news about Otto. Scotty Moriyama is with the Rockies on this trip. He's their rehab coordinator. He does a marvelous job. And Scotty, part of what he does, if it's a throwing situation, he's actually out there throwing with the guys he's working out. And you're talking about a guy who had Tommy John surgery, about 20 weeks ago, somewhere in that time frame. He was throwing out to 75 feet today. It's the 6th time he's thrown already. This has bounced to short. And he is doing really, really well on his rehab. Adam Ottavino. There's Scotty Moriyama. Another 1-2-3 inning. The Rockies have not had a base runner since the 4th inning. It's 1-0 Padres. Brought to you by T-Mobile. Well, there you go. Play eavesdropping on Rockies warming up. That's our T-Mobile Data Strong fan photo of the night. Miguel Castro is now in for the Rockies to throw the bottom of the 8th inning. Will Myers, Yangervis Solarte, and Matt Kemp top of the order for the Padres in a 1-0 game. Rockies have just 2 hits. Padres are run on 5 hits. John Gray, if you missed it, was outstanding. 5 innings, no runs, 2 hits, couple walks, 6 strikeouts through 75 pitches. Will Myers is the difference in this game. He hit a home run in the 6th inning against Gonzalez Germain. A long home run, 409 feet to left field. Crowd of just 19,112 tonight. School back in session today in San Diego area. They start a lot later than we do back in Colorado after Labor Day. That's how it was growing up in New York for us, and I guess for you because you're a California kid, huh?
A lot of times, first day of school, I had to bring cupcakes to class, and I was always the most popular first day of school.
Mom made cupcakes for you to bring on the first day?
First day of school. That was my thing.
And an apple for the teacher, huh?
And then there were times where I missed it, and then I felt, I was in the back of the class and nobody noticed me.
Feel bad for you.
Don't.
0-2, Castro to Myers, and a wicked slider. 1-2. Here's the long ball hit against Germain.
First time I ever saw Will Myers swing, I was in AAA in Omaha, and the swing reminded me so much of Ryan Braun. It's just a short stroke, and if you can picture Ryan Braun's finish, I mean, it's very, very similar. And I know Kansas City was so high on Will Myers, that's why it was so difficult for them to give up Will to get James Shields, but that was also what they needed to get them to the World Series.
That fastball at 96 will send Will Myers back to the bench. So Miguel Castro comes out of the pen, firing darts, and that'll bring up Solarte with 1 out.
Castro so far, just noticing from his very first time at Coors Field when he first came up, has slowed down his windup, his mechanics. He's taking a little bit more time. He doesn't look as rushed. And the ball comes out of his hand.
He's got a loose arm. I mean, that is scout, right?
That is free and easy.
1-0 on Solarte, a double back in the 4th. Yana Herbis has hit 9 straight games now. And that ball's rifled to right over the head of Cargo. And Solarte digging for second, and the throw is a little bit offline. So he's got another double, his second of the ball game.
Don't miss Fan Appreciation Day at Coors Field on Sunday, September 27th. Every fan is automatically entered into a drawing for Rockies merchandise and autographs, items just for attending the game. That sounds like fun. It's the last home game for the Rockies, September 27th.
Kemp a single in the 6th inning. Matt has driven in 91 runs. That is 3rd in the National League. He trails only the Rockies' third baseman, of course, and the Arizona first baseman, Paul Goldschmidt. Slider, low. 1-0 on Kemp. So this 20-year-old Miguel Castro started the year closing games for the Toronto Blue Jays. How much they thought of him. And he did save 4 ball games. Had a rough patch. Was sent down to the minor leagues. And the Rockies naturally fell in love with a guy who has a brilliant arm, but also was tough enough to get to the big leagues at 20 on a good baseball team.
On a good baseball team. And the Blue Jays are using a 21-year-old closer now with Ozuna. Ozuna has a similar arm, 98 miles an hour.
That's a good pitch.
That's dirty.
1-2. This kid will touch 100 with his fastball. Got a tough man at the plate right now with a runner in scoring position. Bottom of the 8th inning. Rockies trying to keep it a 1-run game. Slider, see you later. He locked up Kemp. Matt's not happy about it. And he semi-walks toward the Rockies dugout in disgust. And he's trying to stay in the game, but he's not happy with Mark Wegner. And Pat Murphy's coming out just to make sure he doesn't lose his big right fielder. Here's a borderline pitch. Strike 3, 2 outs. Here's Justin Upton. A single and 2 strikeouts tonight for Upton. Fastball bounce foul.
The Padres tonight 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. The Rockies only having 2 opportunities, and obviously since it's 1-0, what do you think the the other number is, Drew?
0.
Yeah, good.
How'd I do?
Perfect, like always.
Really? 1-1. Well, we all know that guy. He's been around long enough. You faced him, huh?
I stood there. I mean,
he throws the radio ball.
I was there, but I wasn't there.
1-1, good slider. 1-2.
I mean, that's a straight mismatch back in the day. Him versus me, that's an SEC football school against a division, you name it, the lowest division. No shot.
A wiffle ball slider, 2-2. Well, I don't want you to be that self-deprecating, because there's a whole long line of people who feel the same way you do when they face Kimbrel.
Yeah, the Rockies have not done very well against Kimbrel. I'm going to try to avoid reading some of the numbers.
Solarte leads off second, 2-2 on Upton. Rockies in the top of the ninth will have Reyes, Cargo, Arenado. 3-2. You got to figure Upton's going to sell out on the fastball here. You go slider again. What are you thinking, Spilly, if you're at the plate?
He can't come off the fastball. It's 98. On the fastball. Even if you're Justin Upton, we can adjust to a slider.
(3-2) fastball, and it's fouled off. Justin didn't like how that sounded. He wants a new bat. How many did you prepare when you were in the starting lineup?
2.
Just 2?
Just 2. And I would use my bat during batting practice.
You would? A lot of guys don't do that, do they?
I did. I just wanted to swing the same bat until it broke.
Remember, I think it was Kadire last year used the same bat for batting practice, and it was a two-tone bat, and the sweet spot on the barrel would be worn out. This ball's fouled off. Scramble in front of us. 8 guys and a young lady got the baseball. That's the way it should work. Another 3-2. Boy, how did he not swing at that?
I don't know, because he was full.
So Upton walks, and that'll bring up Jerko. Who wants tacos? Fans follow @RootSports_RM on Twitter to receive alerts when the Rockies score 7 or more runs for the Rockies Taco Special. Jerko a single back in the second. He's 1 for 3 this evening. Yesterday, a 6-4 Rockies win. And it was a different game. The first 6 innings, there was a lot of offense, a lot of hits. Yesterday, then the shadows came in and nobody could hit anything. And today's game's been straight Petco from a bygone era. 1 run on a collective 8 hits, 6 for the Padres, just 2 for the Rockies.
As usual, late in the game, you don't mind soft singles or doubles. It's the walks. Avoid walks at all costs.
That's 2-0. Two on and 2 outs and a 3-0 count on the Padres shortstop Jed Jerko with Derek Norris next. And Norris is going to hit with the bases loaded. Jason Gurka. How come when the outfielders get together during a pitching change, you guys don't put your cone of silence gloves over your face to talk to each other?
It's for bad breath. That's what it is.
It's not for reading lips.
No, it's for the bad breath.
I've been wrong all these years.
All these years, that's what people at home, they don't understand. It's for bad breath.
So the crowd getting involved, bases loaded. Padres up 1-0 as they hit in the bottom of the 8th inning. They're 2 outs. Norris against Castro, and it swung on and missed. Norris has 2 grand slams this year. Cargo has 2 for the Rockies. Frazier, Braun, Chris Bryant of the Cubs also with 2 grand slams this year in the National League. And this ball's well hit to center field, but it's going to die in the glove of Charlie Blackmon. So Castro works out of it, and we'll go to the 9th. The Rockies will try to rally against a tough customer, Craig Kimbrell. 1-0 Padres. Top by Mike Shaw Subaru, always our lowest price in sales and service guaranteed. And by Saratoga Casino, so new, so you. 9th inning with a lead. You know who you're going to see in San Diego. It's an entrance, not quite Hell's Bells and Trevor Hoffman, but not bad. So the Rockies have to get after Mr. Kimbrell. First, we go back to Denver. Here's Mark Stott, a preview of what's to come after the ball game. Mark Corey, thank you. Craig Kimbrell's 36 out of 38 save opportunities this year. And there's not a lot of mystery, is there, Spilly, with him?
It's coming. You're getting the fastball. And for his career, think about this, Drew. 341 innings pitched, 548 strikeouts. A walk hit per innings pitched, less than 1.93 this year. He struggled a little bit. It's 1-2, 51 innings pitched, the 72 strikeouts. But of late, which is surprising to me since the Rockies have not fared well against him, in the last 6 2/3, he's given up 3 earned runs.
Jose Reyes, a leadoff type guy. In fact, most of his career he's been a leadoff hitter. In Colorado, he's been batting second because the Rockies have Charlie Blackmon entrenched in that spot. Here we go. First pitch is in there at 98. Rolls out of bed throwing 98. Look at the numbers for Jose, though, against Kimbrell. He owns him 5 for 7. This ball pulled to first, and Myers has it 1 out. That'll bring up Cargo. Take a look at our CenturyLink link to what's next. Tomorrow's pitching matchup. Chris Russin will go for the Rockies, looking for his 6th victory. And big game James Shields looking for his 11th victory. His first season as a Padre. Russin and Shields tomorrow. Our CenturyLink link to what's next. The Rockies have not had a base runner since the leadoff single by Morneau in the 4th inning. 1 out in the 9th. Cargo 0 for 2 and a walk. And he got a pitch to hit, and he fouled it straight back at 99.
Cargo 0 for 5 in his career against Kimbrel. 4 strikeouts.
He throws a radio ball.
You just hear it.
Yeah.
And it's by you.
You know, you're beating yourself up. Do you know what you did against him?
I have no idea. 0 for 1 with strikeout, 3 pitches, probably.
That's down there. You faced him one time and you walked.
Really?
Yeah. You're 0 for 0 against him. You reached.
If I would have had a hit, I would have remembered it. In a walk, in a strikeout, you try to forget it. But I remember I probably faced him in the 6th inning when he came up with the Braves.
He moved to the 9th pretty quickly, if you
Yes,
remember.
he did.
Here's the 1-1. Whoa. He had a 1,000 on-base percentage against Kimbrel. You cannot beat that, Striller. 2-1 on Cargo.
My favorite setup in all the big leagues is right there.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
It's awesome. I don't even know how he started that.
That's unfair.
Well, you're geared up for 98, 99, 100 miles an hour. This is one of the best strikeout pitchers in the history of baseball, and he throws you a slider in a 2-1 count. Well, he's going to get it again. Or the fastball. Or the fastball away. It can settle on a side. Fastball away.
Went changeup at 93. How many times has that phrase been uttered in the history of broadcasting baseball?
It needs a change. You can't call a changeup a 93-mile-an-hour pitch.
Changeup at 93.
Doesn't sound right.
No, it didn't sound right. 3-2. He wants to throw the slider. Called strike 3. Cargo cannot believe it. That's as demonstrative an argument as I've ever seen Cargo have at home plate.
All 2-1. He went with off-speed pitch. 3-2. That just freezes you as a hitter, and if that's right on the corner, that's just a tough pitch.
2 outs. Nolan at the plate. Arenado, a couple of fly balls and a ground ball to third. And it's been more sliders tonight than fastballs from Kimbrel. This ball driven high and deep left field. We have a tie game. Nolan Arenado with his league-leading 37th. It's 1-1. He threw one too many sliders, and Nolan jolted it. How about that, Nolan Arenado?
Nolan Arenado 1 for 3 against Kimbrel. Gets that slider down and in. He saw how he's coming after Cargo. And now that makes that a very important at bat. If that turns out to be a walk, you're talking 2-1 right now. That is such a quick bat for Nolan. When you make a mistake to that guy, it is gone.
I think last year, how much he's improved hitting the long ball. 18 home runs. That's nothing to scoff at for a young kid. He had 18 last year. 16 at home, just 2 on the road. He now has 37 home runs, most in the National League, 19 out on the road. That's also the most in the National League. 1-1. Tell you what, Kimbrel's hacked off now. You haven't seen sliders the last couple of pitches.
Good adjustment. I mean, that's part of baseball and part of Nolan just watching the game. That's how focused he is right now. He's paying attention.
2-1. Do you ever think as hitters you give pitchers too much credit in that you got a guy who's 97 to 100 rolling out of bed, right? And then he gets slider happy. Well, and it's not, listen, it's a dirty pitch, don't get me wrong.
It's dirty, and it goes both ways. The pitchers give the hitters too much credit to go away from their best pitch.
I mean, I've heard you say it countless times. 97, 98 is really, really difficult to hit.
Especially if you locate it where he's been locating it all night. It's been down in the zone.
Rockies down to their last out, and Nolan Arenado has tied it with a home run to left. Outside, 3-2 on Morneau.
I'll tell you what, that ball was crushed. Tonight, the way the ball's been traveling, I mean, there's the ball hit last inning. Derek Norris, center field with the bases loaded. That ball was hammered to center field, and Charlie went nowhere to go back.
And he got him with a slider. So we'll go to the bottom of the 9th inning. Nolan Arenado has struck again. 1-1. Rockies hadn't had a base runner since the 4th. Arenado took care of that. Looming, Nolan Arenado hits one out to left field. His 37th jack of the year. Our Jimmy John's delivery of the game. Nolan Arenado tying it up a moment ago against Craig Kimbrel. Just the 3rd blown save all year for Kimbrel. In the bottom of the 9th, Corey Spangenberg is going to lead it off. The Rockies will counter with Boone Logan. Yeah, we are out of superlatives for Nolan Arenado. Ran out a while ago. He's having a season for the ages on both sides of the ball. So Boone, since Walt has used him exclusively as a left-on-left specialist, has really responded well.
He has, and when you give him an opportunity to do what he does best, I think at times this season you put him in situations where it was hard for him to succeed. He's at his best when he is facing left-handed batters and the occasional righty.
Clint Barmas is in the on-deck circle. Pitcher's spot is next, 7, 8, and 9. And Spangenberg down the left field line, past Arenado. He can really run, and they're not going to get him. He's into second with a double, so the winning run with Spangenberg at second as he goes opposite field, and now you have a great bunter at the plate in Barmas.
Spangenberg thinking double straight out of the box. He didn't even hesitate. He knew he was going to hit that ball right past Nolan Arenado and be standing on second.
I used to watch, and you obviously played with him, watch him bunt during BP, and he, technique-wise, is as good as anybody I've ever seen.
He's the best.
Didn't get that one down. You can tell he's angry at himself. It's 0-1. 59 career sack bunts for the former Rocky shortstop. Staring down Glenn Hoffman at third. Play, and Nolan throws to first. So now the Rockies will have to pull the infield and the outfield in with the winning run at third. Barmas gets the bunt down.
This is textbook bunting. Get the bat head out early, set your angle, and just let the ball come to you. And this is where, if there's a runner at second, you bunt it to third. You want the third baseman to draw in, so you have no play at third base. You do not bunt it to first. Now brings Brett Wallace, who has been amazing at pinch hit situations this year.
So Wallace will pinch hit for Jankowski. Then the outfield comes in. Cargo can stay at moderate depth. Paulson creeps in a little further and left, and same thing in center. Again, you have to, Spilly, you played a lot of center field. You had a terrific arm, but you almost have to come in, don't you, a step or two more because of the speed of the guy at third.
Yeah, you have to come in as much as you can, and part of the reason why, if you are playing a little bit deeper, it's because you're trying to give yourself enough space to make a running throw towards home.
1-0, and this is back up the middle. Reyes comes home, safe at the plate, and the Padres win it. Great play by Reyes in making it close on the throw to Garneau, but Brett Wallace wins it on a fielder's choice, and the Padres walk off the Rockies 2-1. A heck of an effort by Jose Reyes.
Well, if it's anybody other than Spangenberg at third base, you probably have an out. Spin, throw, get up and pop it.
I mean, this is where that great speed pays off.
You can't make that play any better.
Yeah, you can't make it any better than Jose. And to your point, Spill, you're all over it. I mean, if you have a guy with average, even slightly above average speed, probably out.
He's out. Spangenberg won the game right there.
So Brett Wallace gets the RBI, and Nolan Arenado